How's it going there, guys? Mr. Benji and welcome back to a brand new tutorial series. I was meant to start this ages ago, but I just hadn't really had time. So, in this tutorial series, what I'm going to show you how to do is basically connect to a host. And a client can also connect. I don't know why I did such a long pause in that one. But yeah, so you're going to be able to connect to a host, and that host either is going to be on someone else's computer or on your computer. It doesn't really matter, but it's going to be over the network, so that's good. Basically meaning that whoever is running as host or as server is technically the server, and then obviously clients can connect to it. You're going to be able to click to move, like so you can move around the map, and you are also going to be able to kill an enemy. This is just within the first couple of episodes. In the episodes after that, I'll show you how to like equip weapons and stuff like that, just like the proper base mechanics, so then you can build onto that, because obviously I don't want to be showing you a full game, there's no point. So what we're going to try and achieve within these first couple of episodes is, if I just click play, I've got host, client, server. Again, these are just placeholders. I don't want to make anything pretty for you to just copy. That's on you. You can do with whatever you need to do with. Buttons are easy to change. It's not my job to change them. I'm just here to show you how to actually achieve the most basic way of doing it. So if I click host on this little badger here, so you can see I'm moving around absolutely tastily, and I click client, you also see I am now moving around again, and there is two people in the server. One is host, one is client. The client can click on the enemy and beat up the enemy, and the server can also click on the enemy and beat up the enemy, and then when it dies, it then disappears from both host and client. So that's what we're going to try and achieve in these next couple of videos. If you do enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you want me to do any different tutorials on any other different things, then don't forget to leave a comment down below. Or if you just want to interact, then leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get back to you on anything that you ask for. Let's get on with the tutorial. Right, guys, so the new project has opened. I've just called it Multiplayer RPG Tutorial Series. It doesn't really matter, but the first thing we're going to need to do before we get into anything is we need to install MLAPI. Because within Unity 2021.10 F1, it doesn't actually come pre-installed within the package manager, so you kind of do have to install it. So the link will be in the description for this page, which is the MLAPI GitHub link page. You will have to install Git as well. It takes 2 seconds, but you will not be able to install MLAPI without installing Git. It's not a scam, it's not a hack. You can watch different tutorials that will tell you the same thing. So basically, I've installed Git already. So what you need to do is you need to copy this link. You need to go into your Windows package manager, and then you need to add package by Git URL, and then paste it in and click add. And then it's just installing a package, which is the MLAPI package. So we'll just give that the old second. And as you can see, it's installing the MLAPI network library, which is very essential for multiplayer if you didn't actually know. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So now network manager and everything is part of the Unity project. And when I say network manager, this leads me on to my next point. So what you need to do is you need to go to your hierarchy, create a new prefab, and call it network manager. And then, just for simplistic purposes only, we're going to go to add component, and then luckily in the components it says MLAPI. This folder is your best friend. This is technically the only folder you need to get a simple multiplayer working. So what you're going to need to do is you need to go to and click Network Manager. This will install everything, and it'll set everything up other than one thing. In the network transport, you need to just choose, where is it? It's not there. Where are you? Unit transport. I don't know why I did that. So yeah, you need to click Unit transport within the drop down menu. I don't know why did they give me the option to click? I don't know. Anywho, so yeah, now the network manager unit transport is all set up. Technically, what we can do now is we can use this network manager to start the host, start the server, start the client. It's quite simply that easy. So if you click play, what you can do is you can start the host, and that technically now you are in your multiplayer game. You can't see out because there's nothing there. I mean, if I was to join as a client, then you'd probably see 2 cameras within the 3D space, but you know, we move. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to make a little platform, because we need a platform to walk around on. And I'm just going to move that back to -10 and -1. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to create a simple cube, as we do when we create anything. We're going to set it back to 0, click F on that so it just zooms out a little bit. And then what we're going to do, so X value, we'll do it at, I don't know, 25 maybe, and then 0.1, and then 25. Done. So now we've got a platform to walk on. I'm just going to move this up and back a bit just so you can see the full thing. Right. Now we're going to rename this to floor, because we like to keep it nice and clean. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the actual player. Now, this player can be anything you want, but I'm just going to do this for intents and purposes just because I need to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty game object, and I'm going to call this player. Come on, player. That should be in the center somewhere. Put it to the center. Just zero everything out just so it's easier for everything else. Then in the player, I'm going to create a 3D object and call it capsule, and then call this VFX, just because it's just the visuals. You don't need anything else. So I want to drag that up there. So now the player is at the bottom, like so. So now we've got the player, which is cool. So this is just your visual. So this can be a person, it can be a monster. Do you know what I mean? This is literally just the visuals of it. You don't need anything else. It's just a capsule. It could be a box if you wanted. And just to make it so you know which way you're facing, it don't really matter what you do. Call this VFX as well. Position, it don't really matter. So rotation, it needs to be 90 degrees. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scale it down, and then right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a couple of different folders. So we're going to create a folder. We're going to call this mat. Actually, we'll call it player mat. This is just a player material. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of materials. We're going to call it body mat, duplicate that and call it eyes mat. It's better to do this now, simply because then at least in future you can just change the materials to whatever you need them to be. So we'll put body on body, put eyes on eyes, boom boom boom. Opaque, we'll turn the smoothness down, so now it's just a matte looking weird character. Not the best looking character in the world, but I mean it's gonna do. We move. It looks alright. It's gonna do the job, is what we need to. That's all we're gonna do. Object not set to instance of an object. Okie dokie. That's because we haven't assigned a player yet. Chill out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign the player tag to the player, just because why not? The next thing we're going to do, and the most important, is we're going to start adding scripts. Yes, we don't need to code any scripts as of yet, but for the purpose of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to add a network object. This just controls if you can spawn, so technically it's a spawnable prefab, if that makes sense, with a prefab hash, and each one gets their own prefab hash and their own client ID. So that's the next thing that I go into, is network transform. So basically this handles movement on the server. So this, without this on, you won't see other people on the server servering. That's the best explanation, because my brain just went dead as I said that. And I think for now that is all we need. We don't need a nav mesh, because technically you can just use a normal nav mesh and it'll just work anyway, from what I've found anyway. So yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to now make sure we prefab this player because now we don't actually want it to be in the scene. So we'll chuck it down there into the prefabs, and we're just going to delete it. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the network manager again. We're going to go to network prefabs, and we're going to click plus, and we are going to drag our prefabbed player into there and click default player prefab. If you don't click this, it's not going to act as the player. So now every time you start one, every time you start a host or start a client, this player is going to spawn basically. But if you don't want that, then we'll go into another tutorial about this in the distant future, because that's well into like code. But basically, when it comes to character creation and stuff like that, you need this to change to whatever your character needs to be. But we'll get into that in another video. So now if I was to actually go and click play, and then go and click host, you'll see my player is now in there. So before we can actually build this and test it, we kind of need to give the client something to give a visual representation of how to actually start the client, because in the actual inspector, the client can't see the inspector. Like if I was to build this game now, the client can't see within the Unity inspector, but obviously the host can. So the host can see that we've got start host, start server, start client. So we need to basically give the clients something sort of visual representation to be able to click and join the game, if that makes sense. I've just made a quick script called spawning, don't really matter. So first, what we are going to need to do is we are going to need to be able to use Unity's MLAPI. So we're going to put using MLAPI, and then I think that'll do it for now. And we also need to change this to a network behavior, not a mono behavior. It still derives from mono behavior. It's just it gives us the library to be able to use MLAPI to its best of its abilities. Right up. So what we're going to need to do is we are going to need a onGUI function. So it don't really matter what you do here. Just void onGUI. You can leave it as private if you really want, but I don't really give a crap. So what do we need to do? We essentially need to give the person a button to start the client. So all we're going to do is if GUI layout. No, what are you doing? Did I really spell off? Mate, I'm looking at my keyboard as I'm doing this as well. If GUI layout dot button, and then we'll call this client, because that's all that is, client. So you can put whatever you want in here. Client can spawn, blah blah blah, it don't really matter. So I'm just going to call it client just because for now we only need the client, if that makes sense. I mean, we could really, if you really wanted, do host as well. We'll do a host stuff it just because I'm feeling happy about life. So all we're going to do now is network manager dot singleton dot start client. That's all you need to do for that one. So that's essentially starting the client. So if you want to start host, then what we'll do is we'll put host, and then instead of start client, what we're going to do is we're going to start host. So now if we click save, come on to our, I'm going to put this on the network manager just because the network manager is in all clients and hosts, so it's always going to spawn him, if that makes sense. So that's in there. If we click play, it should now give us a, there we go, so you see client and host. If I click host, it's going to spawn me in. If I move the client, the player that way, it's going to move it that way. So I can't actually spawn as a client now. So what's going to happen is if I click file and build run this little specimen, we'll see what happens. This is running on the local as well, so it should technically work. So if I just put this to the side, where are you? Where you going? Where you going? Where you going? There. So if I click, well, I'm going to host it on the actual Unity machine. So if I click host, there we go, we've popped up. If I click client and I move one of these players, you'll see there's two players involved here. You can't move that one because that's the client, so only the client can move that one, but we can't really do alt now. But the host can move the host. So you'll see that is moving around. You can see that is moving. And obviously the client will also move on the host server as well. So there we go. We've got host and we've got multiplayer technically working. We're getting somewhere, guys. It's not like we're not getting somewhere now, so you can see that we're actually getting somewhere. You've seen that the client's just popped out of the game simply because, you know, it's not in the game anymore. So it's all working. Spawning's working, despawn's working, host, clients, blah, de blah, de blah. All that is working. So, I mean, I feel like we're ready for movement. But that's going to be the next tutorial. So guys, if you have enjoyed this first absolute shambles of a tutorial, do not forget to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you've got any comments, any questions, anything that doesn't go right, look it up on Google or ask a comment down below. Either I'll help you or someone else will help you. So yeah guys, I've been Mr. Benji. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you have a good day. And until the next video, peace.